Praise the Lord. As I here on my morning walk, I walk down here by the corner of the train station and go over in the woods of the Forest Reserve and hit these trails. And I thank God for things being as well as they are. Honorable requests God our Father is obligated to answer. It's an honorable request to ask God our Father to save your husband. It's an honorable request to ask God our Father to save your wife. It's an honorable request to ask God our Father to save our children. It's an honorable request to ask God our Father to save us from ourselves. It's an honorable request to ask God our Father to save our minds and hearts from ourselves. It's an honorable request to ask God our Father to change us deep, deep, deep on the inside. It's an honorable request to ask God our Father to deliver ourselves or someone else from alcohol, drugs, or dope, or anger, or racism, or bigotry. It's an honorable request. Sometimes we hold grudges against people. Oftentimes we do. And that causes unforgiveness and bitterness. And once we do that, it's hard to let your heart out of jail. But all you have to do is forgive. A lot of us have locked our hearts up and we are our own jailer. When you don't forgive, you're telling this. This is my favorite. You're telling the person, I know what you did. I know you apologize. I know you're sorry, maybe, but I'm not going to forgive you. That's when we lock our hearts up. When we don't forgive, we telling that person, hey, you got control over me. I'm not going to sleep well, and I'm going to toss and turn. Don't y'all understand when we don't forgive people, they don't toss and turn. We do. It's an honorable request to ask God our Father to fill us with forgiveness. It's an honorable request to ask God our Father to forgive those who've hurt us. It's an honorable request to ask God to change those who are wanting and waxing and depressive and out of their mind and wild and can't seem to change. It's an honorable request to ask God our Father to save us from ourselves. It's an honorable request to ask God our Father to save us from hate and bigotry and racism and evil as I leave this alone. It's an honorable request to ask God to touch your heart, to touch your mind, to make you a better person on the inside. Oh, I'm not better than you by far, but I pray I'm better on the inside as God our Father, the Father of the believer and the creator of us all, will have it to be as I land God's spacecraft. It's an honorable request to ask God to change you. It's an honorable request to ask God to change someone else, not to shape and mold them to fit you. Because if a person do all the changing in a relationship or marriage, unless they are the whole problem, you're not going to make it. We got to change and compromise with one another as I leave this alone. It's an honorable request to seek change and rearrange. It's an honorable request to beg God to change us on the inside. It's an honorable request to pray for our children. Although our children are our source of greatest joy, they can also be our source of greatest pain as I leave this alone. It's an honorable request to beg God for help. It's an honorable request to beg God to change me on the inside. It's an honorable request. It's an honorable request. It's an honorable request to beg the Lord to change me on the inside. Help me, Lord. It's a beautiful day. It's a gift called a present from God. Have a beautiful day on God. Have a beautiful present on God. Have an awesome gift of God on God. It's called a present. My mom and dad used to say, God didn't wake you up to ruin somebody's day. Lord, let everybody meet me, meet the Lord. It's an honorable request to beg God to help somebody else. It's an honorable request to beg God to change someone for their own good. It's an honorable request to beg God to save your marriage and to save you. It's an honorable request. Call on him. Call on him. Jesus is on the main line. Tell him what you want. Jesus is on the main line. Tell him what you want. Jesus is on the main line. Tell him what you want. You just call him up and tell him what you want. Yes, it's an honorable request to beg God. Beg him. Call him. The line is never busy. Tell him what you want. Peace. It's an honorable request. One.